Welcome to our virtual roundtable on China-Vanuatu ties. I'm Li Qiuyuan in Beijing. During his trip to China, Vanuatu's visiting Prime Minister Charlot Salwai has spoken highly of the Oriental Giant's urbanization drive, calling it a miraculous path to modernization. From infrastructure to tourism, from trade to technology, today we would like to dive into the treasure trove of the enormous opportunities described by the Prime Minister and explore the key factors driving bilateral cooperation between China and Vanuatu. We're pleased to be joined by members of Vanuatu's visiting delegation, including its Minister of Internal Affairs, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, a Parliament member, and a veteran journalist. Welcome to you all. So let me start with Minister Koanapo first. This is your first time visiting China since taking office as Vanuatu's Minister for Internal Affairs, and you've visited quite a number of megacities here in China this time, famously known as innovation powerhouses, financial and cultural hubs. How has your China experience so far? What do you find most interesting about this trip? What stood out to you the most?
The numerous meetings that we've had has been really fruitful, and a number of things that we've been observing so far in China, including the concept of smart city, particularly in Shenzhen. That's been really good, and that's something that we're currently interested in, particularly in view of the government policy to develop its new townships and cities in the country. So that's something that we've really learned a lot from cities like Shenzhen.
And Mr. Lo, let me also bring you into this. You made history by becoming Vanuatu's member of parliament that is of Chinese descent. How have you been telling your colleagues and friends who are visiting China for the very first time about this country? And have you made any new discoveries about China during this trip?
You ask a very interesting question. I elected to become member of parliament of Vanuatu as a Chinese distance. Is really prove democracy in Vanuatu. I have lived in Vanuatu as 35 years. After I have more than 10 years did not go back to China. So this time when I come back to China, I find the biggest change is fantastic and amazing. Vanuatu and China have very strong relationship, and I believe Vanuatu can get plenty benefit for Chinese help and support.
And Mr. Liu, you are with the Vanuatu Broadcasting Corporation, and after your visit to China this time, what are some of the things that you would like to share with your audience back in Vanuatu? What would you like them to know about China?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me in the show. This is not my first time in China, actually, but from my impression over the last 7 or 8 years, I think there's been some impressive reaction, actually, from me. Firstly, I think the reception that the current Prime Minister and his delegation received was overwhelming. It reflects the level of relationship that Vanuatu has with China. So it is very impressive, I should say. And I think people of Vanuatu will appreciate the fact that they have someone very respectable in their government visiting China and having to receive such an honor from the government and people of China.
I think that affectionate feeling is being reciprocated by people here in China as well. And Minister Koanapo, you have served your country in different roles before your appointment as Minister for Internal Affairs. How would you describe the China-Vanuatu relations?
China as one of the very powerful economy in the world, rapidly modernizing its developments, China. And of course, a very strong country, a big country, as opposed to countries of the Pacific, in this case, Vanuatu. The level of reception, the level of respect that China, as a big country, is able to accord to a small country like Vanuatu demonstrates the level of respect but it also demonstrates the value that China attaches to all of its partners around the world. And I think the way China has conducted its relations with Vanuatu and equally other Pacific nations, I would assume the same principle applies to other countries in Africa and other places around the world, has been very consistent, has been very respectful in spite of the size of China, in spite of the size of China as a country, the population in terms of its economy, and the relations between Vanuatu and China is very mutual. It's based on respect, it's based on equality, it's based on non-interference in each other's affairs, and I think this is a profound principle that is so important. We are able to sit together in spite of the size of the economy, the size of the population, and other factors that distinguishes China as a country, as opposed to developing island states of the Pacific. I think we're able to sit together, be able to for China to be able to accord time, and in particular, the premier of China, the president of China, being able to accord time for a bilateral discussion is so unique. It's important, and I think this type of approach in terms of its relations with Vanuatu in this case, and of course, the way China conducts its diplomacy across the board in the Pacific. I would speak on behalf of other countries, but it's just very inclusive. So we're able to sit down together and express our interest, discuss issues of interest.
And Minister Rick Mahe, let me get to you now. You are the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. Vanuatu was one of the first Pacific Island countries to join the Belt and Road Initiative. And China has also participated in several crucial infrastructure projects in Vanuatu, including the landmark Tana and Malikula Road. Have you personally traveled on those roads? How big of a change has it brought to people living there? And what's more, how are projects like this being perceived by people of Vanuatu?
Thank you. First of all, it is an honor to be part of the show. I think first and foremost, I would like to join my colleague in expressing a word of gratitude to the CPC and the People's Republic of China for allowing Vanuatu delegation led by Honorable Prime Minister to the official visit as we are embarking on a journey that from Guangdong to Shenzhen to Shanghai and here in Beijing. It is an eye-opener journey for us, and China has been a great friend indeed in allowing us Vanuatu to experience what they've experienced from the journey they've embarked on a reform until where they are today. Yes, indeed, Vanuatu is one of the countries that has signed the Belt and Road Initiative back in 2018, and we do not regret in embarking on that journey. In fact, being the Minister of Infrastructure for a couple of months, at the end of last year, I've on behalf of the people of the Republic of Vanuatu, I've received with the current Prime Minister the handover ceremony for the Malikula Road that was transferred to us and was handed over to us. And for me, back then, as the Minister responsible for infrastructure, I was amazed by seeing the professionalism and the way that the Chinese government has allocated us with such, I would say, privilege to have access to better road that drives to villages, road that improve access to health services, road that improve access to education and even to economic benefit. I think as the say goes, where's this road, there's hope. And yes, indeed, in Vanuatu, we can see that when we have better infrastructure development as Malikula and Tana, there's a hope, and it stimulates the economic benefit as the tourism sector in Vanuatu is booming. So yes, indeed, with the Belt and Road that Vanuatu is embarking on it, we can see a lot of benefit, and we know that we will receive more and we will accomplish more on that initiative.
Vanuatu is also looking to boost its own digital economy. So Minister Chomako, you have visited Huawei's headquarters in Shenzhen a little earlier. Can you tell us what were your first reactions, first thoughts after seeing and hearing about the possibilities available there through these technologies? What kind of a role do you think tech companies such as Huawei have played in promoting the Belt and Road cooperation?
For me personally, you can't just separate the infrastructure component. It's also including the digital aspect that we visited from Shenzhen. It was for us an eye opener to see that how we can use technology to better manage the new city, as they say, the smart city, better coordinate, respond and rescue, addressing the issue, the time-saving issue that we are, as they say, the time is money. We can learn from what we see here to also adapting ourselves in building the similar concept with us. And yes, definitely Huawei as a big company has an important role to play in providing smarter approach, as they say, smart city, and as I mentioned, to provide an efficient and I would say secure service delivery to the people who are living in new city that we want to build in the future.
Gentlemen, I would also like to take some time to talk about the climate challenge. Minister Kawanapol, Vanuatu is unfortunately one of the most vulnerable countries in the world, with its vulnerability to the effects of climate change as well as other natural disaster events. And climate change is caused by an increase in the amount of carbon dioxide being emitted into the atmosphere. But during your stay in Guangdong province this time, you had the chance to visit the Nanshan Energy Ecological Park, right, which is a facility that, very simply put, looks at ways to convert waste into green energy and reduce CO2 emissions. What were your main takeaways from this very informative visit to the park? Do you see that some experience there in China could be adapted to the Vanuatu context?
Yes, definitely. China has come a long way in terms of its efforts internationally to try and address the issues of climate change, and particularly in terms of its mitigation in addressing the emissions of CO2 and other harmful substances into the air. I mean, I have had the experience in these international negotiations in the conference of the parties over the years to see how countries, negotiate and, of course, make commitments on how they should address in terms of the domestic policies and efforts within their own countries to try and address the issues of climate change. From the experiences that we in the Pacific face, particularly in Vanuatu, where you have the cyclone seasons that starts from April to November, so it's from November to April. So you have 6 months of cyclone season, and of course 6 months where you can reconstruct and repair and do all sorts of things necessary to prepare for another cyclone season. So it's become so frequent that we've decided, we've kind of naturally develop the resilient character to be able to adapt. So what is most important to us is not the conventional security approach, the conventional security measures that we must take in terms of the military hardware and other things. Our important notion of security is defined by the issues that affect our daily life, every day, and throughout the 83 islands of Vanuatu. So one of these most profound emerging security threat is climate change. And what we've seen in China, the reforms that China has put on a lot of effort to reform its policies, and particularly to demonstrate its policies in terms of technology and how it integrates technology into climate challenges is important, is profound.
And China has also established various mechanisms to assist Pacific Island countries and manage their vulnerability to the effects of climate change. Beijing supports Pacific Island countries to implement the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. So, Minister Koa Napo, what kind of achievements have been made so far between Vanuatu and China on climate cooperation?
Look, China's overseas development assistance to Vanuatu and other countries in the Pacific is not only confined to infrastructure, it's also extended to other areas, particularly in climate change. Look, we have we used to have a lot of new Vanuatu that come to China to study different areas and have qualifications in different areas. But one of the areas that we've increasingly seen our young people come to study in China is in the area of climate change. And I think this is one of the assistance that China is offering to the Pacific and for Vanuatu in this case. Just today I met one of the one of our young boys that is studying doing his master's degree in Shanghai, and he's doing that in environmental engineering. I mean, these kinds of skills that countries have and are able to provide to other countries that desperately need education capacity building in this area. So China has been supportive of this. Not only that, but China is able to support the climate resilient projects in the Pacific, as well as other things that China is able to provide. We will, in the near future, be able to have a more comprehensive partnership agreement with the Chinese government. And then one of the areas that we'll be focusing on very significantly is how to be able to address the issues of climate change, particularly in the infrastructure.
Mr. Liu, over to you. What are your expectations on future bilateral collaboration in the spirit of building connections between the people from the two countries? What should be the priority actions to take to facilitate increased communication and better understanding between China and Vanuatu?
Yes, as I've mentioned, relationship shouldn't be about just infrastructures, but the people-to-people relationship is very important because it promotes it promotes the level of understanding where people should appreciate each other's culture. So I hope that the two countries can exchange maybe some events in terms of cultural exchange. Maybe they can organize events where culture groups travel from one country to the other in the hope of promoting culture. We're having to deal with a lot of sentiments, especially with technology. We were discussing quite earlier about that, the level of information flow. We in the media, we need to be able to deal with misinformation, to be able to deal with disinformation in order to promote this mutual understanding between people of Vanuatu and people of China. So hopefully in the near future we will be able to exchange content in terms of maybe television and radio content in order to promote this people-to-people relationship, and hopefully it can it can be able to iron out some of the misinformations that we get in Vanuatu, as well as what people of China may perceive about the people of Vanuatu. So in the long run, that's what I'm hoping to see.
Mr. Luo, Mandarin was introduced as another foreign language to provide the younger generation the opportunity to learn a different language other than French, English, or Japanese in Vanuatu. And we understand that one of the prominent secondary schools there in Port Vila now offers Chinese as a subject to the primary stream and secondary stream. From your perspective, what kind of impact would the expansion of Chinese language learning have on building more connections between the two peoples, on deepening the bilateral ties? And as the only member of parliament of Chinese descent, how would you use your advantage to further promote the friendly ties between the two countries?
From my side, I think Chinese language Mandarin not is a foreign language study in Vanuatu. Because through the language, we can understand the culture each other. Because China and Vanuatu, we have also very similar traditional custom. We also respect our family. Vanuatu is a small country, but inside our custom very strong. Our small country, we must learn the culture, and we can get more understanding how to follow the advanced policy come to Vanuatu. And also the young generation, he can learn not for language, he can learn difference for economy, for technology. After we can get a more new idea to open our people's eyes, open our people's mind to develop our country. So this is more important. Need a new Vanuatu to study Mandarin to understand outside of the world what's going on. And also for my opinion, we already opened 2 agriculture exchange and culture education center in China, one in Chongqing, one in Beijing. After we can exchange more students to learn each other, to share the experience, and also can make more friend, because the more new one go to China, he can more understanding the Chinese culture. After he come back, he will teach more people to find more advanced to change his life. We want the people get a valuable life. How can get a valuable life? You must learn. You must go outside. Not only stay in the island, stay your corner. So it's more important. Through the language, we can make the exchange fast. So we open the 2 culture education center in China for prepare for our generation to study this one.
Yeah, final question goes to all of you. After concluding this trip in China, when you return home to Vanuatu, what would be your first priority in terms of implementing the agreements that were agreed to and signed in China? Let me start with Minister Chomako here first.
I think first and foremost is for us to align. I think some of our policies with what we've learned from the journey here in Beijing or China overall, and after that we need to also make sure that certain legislation that is in place that we can implement some of the ideas and the vision that we've seen and we've experienced during our trip in China. So it'll be a big task for us to return home and align ourselves with what we've seen here to make sure that we've implement what we've traveled here to see and to bring back home.
What about you, Mr. Law?
Well, my idea is we must open the direct flight China and Vanuatu, because this is very important. We must open this more investor come for China or come to Asian country, come to Vanuatu, because in China, how can develop quickly? Because before have one policy, you want to become developer, you first building your road. Because our is island country, so where is our road? Is airline. So we must open this one to more people interested to Vanuatu, go inside. After we can develop quickly. So this is my priority. I will push this one to help both sides to sign the agreement fast. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we could see a direct flight with China and Vanuatu. And Mr. Leo, what about you? Your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think it's important that people of Vanuatu should know about what the initiatives are after this, and where we are in terms of the agreements that were discussed during this trip. So it's important as media, we play an important role in ensuring that people understand the initiatives, people understand the development goals that China and Vanuatu are embarking on. So it'll be our priority to explain what happened here and to follow up on the initiatives discussed, and of course promote the exchange of content in order for people of China and Vanuatu to understand each other and share their cultural values as well. So it's something that quite big to achieve, but of course, as time goes, the media will play its role in order to keep track of these initiatives and help people understand.
And finally, Minister Koa Napo, where would you like to start first in terms of consolidating the consensus being reached here?
China today produces everything, and if you categorize how people categorize the country as an industrialized country, if you want to have, if a country does produce over 550 industrial goods, then they're able to be regarded as an industrialized country. I mean, China is fastly industrializing its sectors, and of course there is a limited opportunity. But if countries don't develop this relationship and understanding, they will not be able to harness the opportunities that are out there in the world. I mean, of course, people would look at the relationship between China and the Pacific as something that is as sort of that they look at it from the prism of geopolitics. But that is not the way it should be looked at. It is to be looked at as a family of nations, and particularly within the same ocean, trying to help each other. And I think I would continue to promote the relationship going stronger into the future, so we'll be able to continue to develop much more comprehensive partnership agreement with China going forward. Look, I'm elected from a constituency in Vanuatu called Tanna, and Tanna is one of those islands that was able to get, as a result of this partnership with China, the roads that are currently being constructed by CECC. And I tell you, these roads have brought immense economic benefits. At one stage, when I was parliamentary secretary to the current prime minister back in 2017, we had a delegation visiting from one of the developed countries. I think this is one of my priorities as a former diplomat in Vanuatu and as a politician. I want to see the relationship of Vanuatu grow with other countries as well, using the template that China is using, with mutual respect, that you and I could be able to sit down and on the table and as equals and be able to discuss issues of mutual interest. And I think this is one of the important fundamental priorities I want to continue to pursue, besides the government policy and technical cooperation matters that is happening between Vanuatu and China. And I want to wish President Xi Jinping and the people of the People's Republic of China a success. They're currently modernizing, but they're able to share what they have with their friends. And China and Vanuatu are friends, and good friends indeed. Thank you very much.
Minister, I like the way you put it. A family of nations helping each other. This is the way you look at the relations, the friendship between China and Vanuatu. And with that, we come to the end of our virtual roundtable on China-Vanuatu ties. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for sharing your China trip with us. We appreciate your insights and perspectives on China-Vanuatu relations. As China and Vanuatu stand ready to embrace an exciting future together, we look forward to seeing more pragmatic cooperation that could benefit the two peoples. Best wishes to the friendship between the peoples of China and Vanuatu. I'm Li Qiuan in Beijing. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great one.